Welcome back. Vote counting continues in the Zimbabwean presidential and parliamentary elections. The Wednesday poll had to be extended to Thursday due to delays in delivering ballot papers to voting stations. The main opposition leader and president contender, Chamisa, has described the situation as another attempt by the ruling ZANU-PF to steal the election. The final results are expected to be announced early next week. Now, for more on this, we are joined by Zimbabwean journalist Zenzele Ndebele. Mr. Ndebele, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. What's the feeling among Zimbabweans currently at the moment?
I think a lot of people are anxious. They are waiting for the results because it's not yet clear how it's going to go, especially the fact that CCC in this election have done very well in a number of areas that they had not won in 2018. And also just the way ZANU-PF have been reacting. They had 3 press conferences in 24 hours. So that gets people talking. And also we have seen SADC coming out, EU coming out, and the AU talking about some of the issues that did not go well. So people are anxious. They are waiting. They don't know how it is going to end. And it's a long wait because elections or results will be announced in about 5 days.
Now, taking it back to voting, on Wednesday, many people had ended the day not having cast their vote. The president needed to then extend voting by a day. Was this a surprise?
It was a surprise. It was the first time that it happened where polling stations open and there is no material. That has never happened. And it affected a lot of people. What made it worse was this happened in Harare and Bulawayo, which are the main areas where opposition has support. So to a lot of people, it looked like a deliberate voter suppression because there was no particular or no serious explanation why this happened. Just a few days before the elections on the 18th of this month, on the August, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission actually came out saying that they were ready for the elections. They released the number of ballot papers that they printed for the local authority, for the parliament, and for the presidential. So it became out as a big surprise when on the election day people went to the polls 7 a.m. and there was no voting material. And in some areas, polling started at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, in some areas 3 o'clock. In other areas like in Harare, it did not start until 7 p.m., which forced the Electoral Commission to extend voting to another day. So the logistical challenges was actually a big dent that will really go a long way in discrediting these elections.
Speaking of that discredit, how much confidence do Zimbabweans now have in the Zimbabwean Electoral Commission, given some of the issues that existed, like you say, the missing names of people on ballot papers, as well as not enough ballots at voting stations?
People have always had trust issues with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and I think this time around it has even made worse. Because imagine a polling station that opens at 3 p.m. and is supposed to close at 3 a.m. I mean, who's supposed to go and vote midnight? So these are some of the issues that people look back and say, but there was a deliberate ploy to make sure that people don't vote. And we are still to analyze how the late opening of polls affected the numbers. So ZEC has a lot of trust issues, or they still need to do a lot to make sure that people believe them, they are credible. And how they announce the elections, these ones, especially the presidential, is also going to be affect how people view them.
But one must commend the peacefulness of the elections that took place over the past 2 days.
Yeah, I think since voting started, we have not had any major incidents, and we hope it will be like that, because what we know is that every political party expects to win. So when elections are announced and it doesn't go the way other people want, we don't really know how that will be. But it also depends on the margins and how this is announced. If people feel like the process has been free and fair, of which right now I don't think there's anyone who thinks the process has been free and fair. So it is, the question is, how long will this peace prevail? Because what will happen after the elections are announced or the results are announced is quite important.
Speaking of that free and fair, we know that some election observers have put out statements. The AU and SADC alleged that there was vote intimidation. Do you believe that there would be any recourse should it be proven that this was the case?
I think I've talked to candidates who are already talking about, especially the parliamentary candidates who lost, who are already talking about going to court. They're saying there was a lot of voter intimidation where this organization called FAZ, Forever Zimbabwe, linked to the ruling party and to the intelligence, was setting up tables outside voting stations, sometimes within the 300 meters of the polling station, asking people to tell them who they voted for, or write down their names. This was seen as intimidation. And also, for the first time, SADC has come out very clear, saying some of the elements or part of the elements of this election did not meet the Zimbabwe electoral laws, the Zimbabwean constitution, and also they fell short of the SADC guidelines on how to hold democratic elections. We've seen ZANU-PF coming out and defending itself, blaming SADC and its head of the observer mission, saying that that's not what they fought for and all these kind of things. So already we can see that SADC has set the tone for people to dispute these elections.
Speaking of the ZANU-PF, you mentioned that they've already had 3 press briefings in the last 24 hours. What do you make of their messaging, of their attitude in these press briefings?
First, they came out and said that they were confident for looking at the results from their agents that they were going to get between 60 and 65%. Analyzing that, you could tell that this was more like an agenda setting, that they want people to already warm up to the idea that they've won. They then came out again after the press statement by the preliminary report by SADC, complaining that SADC was out of its way. They were not happy with the way the results were, or the report was presented. They also blamed SADC for many other things. Just after that, the press conference by the ZANU-PF spokesperson, we saw the Minister of Justice again coming out talking about AU and SADC and the response. So this shows that there is a bit of panicking within ZANU-PF. There is a bit of trying to push a certain narrative that we have won this election and we don't want you to come here and give the opposition ideas that they should challenge the court. Because if SADC says the election did not meet the standards, it means the opposition can also now go to court and say this election did not meet the standards, the SADC standards, the constitution of Zimbabwe, the electoral laws. There were a lot of flaws, there were logistical challenges, there was intimidation. So far, we have not really had this today. The opposition was a bit quiet. We don't know what they are doing. Probably they are weighing their options and thinking of the legal routes if the election does not go their way.
So with that said, would we possibly not see a rerun on the 2nd of October, meaning that there would be an outright winner in the next 5 days?
It's a tricky thing to say whether there will be an outright winner, but whoever wins this election, I think it is going to be a very close election, because looking at the parliamentary results now, it's not really, ZANU-PF is not far ahead of the opposition. And one thing that I have to make clear is that so far I think ZANU-PF is not going to retain its 2/3 majority, which is one of the things that they really wanted. ZANU-PF wants a 2/3 majority so that they can deal with their succession issue. With a 2/3 majority, they are able to amend the constitution if they want. They have the leeway to make new laws. But currently, the way the opposition has come out, I don't think ZANU-PF would have its 2/3 majority.
In one of the press briefings, the spokesperson for ZANU-PF said the winner in this election would be the people of Zimbabwe. How close or how far do you believe the people of Zimbabwe are to winning?
I don't think the people of Zimbabwe are winning, because they are going to be the victims anyway in a number of ways. If there is a dispute in this election, it is the people of Zimbabwe who are going to suffer. There might be violence. A lot of people have said it's 43 years since ZANU-PF has been in power and they need change. So the majority of Zimbabwe, especially those in urban areas who are looking for new jobs, who are looking for new opportunities, who are looking for a better life, the ones in the diaspora will be victims. if ZANU-PF emerges victorious in this election.
And ZANU-PF has accused some of those naysayers of being more aligned to the West, and therefore some of the things that they are accusing ZANU-PF for are simply just but an agenda.
Well, it is tired propaganda for ZANU-PF to be always talking about the Western world, the Western this. It's a scapegoat. The problem that the people of Zimbabwe face is corruption. The problem the Zimbabwean people face is the economy that is not functional. It is the way ZANU-PF is running the economy, failing to deliver quality service. And I guess it is because of the Western world that we still have medicine in hospitals, that we still have a lot of aid and food that is being distributed in rural areas. So if it was not for agencies like the UN, the US, and European Union, a lot of people would be dying in hospitals. A lot of people would be going hungry. But we have seen over years, whenever ZANU-PF is in a corner, they will always blame the Western world.
And is it not the same Western world that could lift sanctions against Zimbabwe, that would help Zimbabwe move out of where it is and possibly go back into being the breadbasket of Africa?
Yeah, I think if ZANU-PF was to hold a free and fair election, make sure that all conditions are met and there is rule of law, they respect human rights, I honestly don't see the reason why the sanctions, especially by the Americans, will still be there. Because the Europeans have already lifted the sanctions on Zimbabwe. We now have, I think, 1 or 2 companies that are sanctioned, and it's mainly the companies that are linked to the military and a few individuals. So they already, right now, there is this, whenever it suits, the narrative suits ZANU-PF, they talk about the re-engaging and engagement. ZANU-PF also wants to join the Commonwealth, and they were excited that the Commonwealth observers are in Zimbabwe. They expect a good report from the Commonwealth. So the issue of the West, I don't know when the West is bad and when the West is good. It all depends on ZANU-PF's mood.
All right. Thank you so much for all those inputs and insights. That was Zimbabwean journalist Zenzele Ndebele giving us an update there of the Zimbabwean elections, that the parliamentary and presidential elections took place in the last 2 days.